The Upper Geyser Basin in the Old Faithful area can be considered by many as the heart of Yellowstone National Park. And instead of my typical trail review, I'm going to do something a little bit different here. Because this area is so condensed with geothermal features, I thought it would be best instead to focus on my best tips for visiting this area and how to maximize your time. I'll still get to a review and the trail system itself, but that's what we're going to focus on, and I can't wait to share it with you. So let's get into it. So what makes the Upper Geyser Basin the heart of Yellowstone? Well, partly it's because it's the home of Old Faithful, which is probably the most famous geyser in the world, but it also boasts the highest concentration of geysers and geothermal features, with over 150 of them within a 1 square mile. So how do you get here? Well, within Yellowstone National Park, it's located about 16 miles south of the Madison Junction along the Grand Loop Road. And this area also houses one of the main visitor centers. You have a general store, a gift shop, you have rental equipment, several restaurants, the lodge, places to stay. So this area is pretty massive and there's a lot to do here, including the trail system itself, the Upper Geyser Basin Trail. Which brings me to my first tip. Because there's so much to do and see here, to really appreciate the area and get the most out of your visit, you're going to want to spend at least a third to a half day here. And that's a pretty conservative time frame, which leads me to my next tip, which is don't plan your visit around the Old Faithful eruption schedule. I say that because there's so much to occupy your time here with the gift shop, the visitor center, and the restaurants that it's really easy to catch an eruption of Old Faithful because it goes off every 60 to 90 minutes. So it's really easy to pass your time. And if you're hoping to catch one of the other major geysers in this area, such as Daisy Geyser, Riverside, Grand, or Castle Geyser, you can call in advance to see when those eruption times are. And because those geysers erupt on a much longer time frame, it's better to arrange your day around those geysers than Old Faithful because they just don't go off nearly as often. And so it's easier to plan on focusing on those geysers and planning your day around that, and you can still easily catch an Old Faithful eruption. Which brings me to Old Faithful. So let's talk about Old Faithful. Now, I've seen Old Faithful now go off 4 to 5 times. And every time I've seen Old Faithful erupt, it's left me underwhelmed. And it took me a bit to try to figure out why I was left underwhelmed because it's such a famous geyser. I think part of the reason is because it's such a popular attraction that you have hundreds of people watching it with you. And it's a pretty distant view. I mean, the geyser's pretty far away when it erupts. And most of the other geothermal features in Yellowstone, you can get pretty close to the action. And so it's not a real engaging experience. But honestly, if you ask anyone that goes to Yellowstone what their favorite part of Yellowstone was, there's a good chance Old Faithful wasn't at the top of their list. I mean, honestly, take a look. What was your favorite part of Yellowstone?
The buffalo.
What about Old Faithful?
That was all right.
What was your favorite part about Yellowstone?
The hot springs. I really like the bison and the herds.
What about Old Faithful?
Old Faithful was really cool. It went like 20 feet up in the air.
Just 20 feet?
No, more like there. No.
But it wasn't your favorite part.
Nah, I like the bison.
See what I mean? Which brings me to the best time to see Old Faithful. Personally, I think the morning, especially in the summer months, might be the best time because in the colder air is going to produce more steam during the eruption, which just might make it more impressive. But it's also a major bucket list for me to go to Yellowstone in the wintertime, partly because I would love to see Old Faithful go off in sub-zero temperatures. I've seen videos and it looks amazing. So let's talk about the Upper Geyser Basin Trail. What can you expect? Well, the trail stats are about 3.2 miles round trip with a total elevation of around 100 feet. And those are rough estimates because there's several different loops and different variations of this trail that you can take because there's so many different side boardwalks that it's hard to give you an exact amount, but that's a rough amount. And that goes all the way to Morning Glory Pool and back. And the trail is actually paved or on a boardwalk the entire way. So it makes it really easy for just about anyone to do. So as I mentioned before, what makes this trail so unique is the high concentration of geysers and geothermal features in this area. And besides the 5 main geysers that I mentioned earlier, there's also a slew of smaller geysers. And these geysers are erupting at different times, sometimes all the time. You have different sizes, different shapes. You have all sorts of pools and hot springs bubbling up of various sizes and shapes as well. And because all these geysers have different characteristics and eruption behaviors, you're likely going to get a different experience no matter how many times that you do this trail, which makes it so much fun and unique no matter how many times you do it. And one of the added bonuses is the Firehole River just cuts through right in the middle of the upper geyser basin. So you have geysers on both sides of the river, and the river itself just adds another layer to how amazing this place is. And toward the back end of this trail, and a popular turnaround point, is Morning Glory Pool. Now, Morning Glory Pool has turned into almost like a martyr for geothermal features because the pool itself used to be a beautiful aqua blue, but because of vandalism and people throwing rocks into the pool, it's kind of clogged up the spring itself and cooled the water down, which has now given it a kind of greenish brown look. Instead, it's really kind of a depressing turnaround point because usually the end of a hike is the highlight of a hike, where this is kind of like a depressing, somber reminder not to destroy the geothermal features. Because I'll be honest, like when I was there, I saw trash, some of it in the hot springs themselves, and kind of depressing. I didn't like that. But besides that, and the large crowds that you get, there's so much this trail has to offer. It's beautiful. You never know what kind of experience you're going to get and what you're going to see. That's why this trail is rated an all day, every day. Oh, one last tip for you. If you're watching Old Faithful before doing this hike, if you plan it right, you can watch Old Faithful, do the hike, and then come back and catch a second eruption of Old Faithful when you're done. Because it's probably going to take you about that long to do this hike and get back. So it's kind of like a 2-for-1. But from here in the next video, we're going to focus on another geyser basin that's relatively close by. So stay tuned for that. But if you like this video, hit a like, hit a subscribe. See you in the next one.